programming is EI, educational and informative.
Today on Mystery Hunters, we're scaring up the truth behind some terrifying tales.
Do spooky shadows have a life of their own? I keep hearing like these crackling sounds and there's somebody behind me. I'm searching the cemetery where they hang out to catch the mysterious shadow people in the act. Doubting Dave shows you how to cast a shadow of fear over your own house.
If you dare.
And was Frankenstein's monster real?
Frankenstein.
I'm laying it all on the line for the truth.
Good evening, Christina. I'm expecting you.
This is Mystery Hunters.
We'll be right back with more Mystery Hunters. We now return to Mystery Hunters.
Have you ever been all alone in a dark place and seen a shadow that scares you? Or maybe you've had that feeling that something shadowy is following you, but when you turn around, nothing's there. Lots of people have seen scary shadows, but do these dark shapes have a will of their own? Could they be shadow people? Heidi Hollis says she's been seeing shadow people for years. She's even written a book on them. When was the first time you saw a shadow person?
Actually, the first time I saw a shadow person was when I was about 20 years old.
Heidi was with a friend.
One day we went to go walking to her uncle's house. While we were walking, I thought I saw something from my side view, and I turned to look, and I saw this head ducked down behind some bushes. I just figured, maybe some kids are playing, so I just kind of disregarded it. I kept walking with my friend when I saw this huge shadowy mass jump from one tree to the next. By the time we reached my friend's house, I just had it, and I'm like, I gotta tell her, what I saw. And I draw this thing out that looks very much like somebody's head directly connected to their shoulders. And she looks at me and she goes, oh, that thing. That thing's been following me since I was a kid.
Ever since that day, Heidi's seen a lot of different kinds of shadow people. She showed me what some of them look like. Do you think they could be regular shadows?
There's no way that they're just regular shadows.
Where should I go to find one?
At someplace lonely, kind of isolated.
How about a cemetery? If shadow people exist, I want to get proof by capturing them on videotape.
Frankenstein is one of my favorite books. In the story, a mad scientist called Victor Frankenstein creates a monster from body parts and brings him to life using electricity.
It's alive!
The author, Mary Shelley, wrote it when she was only 19. But if Mary Shelley really made it all up, then how come there's a Castle Frankenstein in Germany? There it is. Castle Frankenstein. Now, if the castle is real, could there have been a Dr. Frankenstein? And did he really create a monster?
Good evening, Christina. I'm expecting you. Please come in.
Walter Sheely is a writer and a tour guide at the Frankenstein Castle. He knows all about the castle's history. Was there a real Frankenstein family?
Of course, there was a real family of Frankenstein who lived here.
But, Walter, was there a real mad scientist like Victor Frankenstein that lived here?
There was a scientist, but he wasn't a mad scientist. His name was Johann Conrad Dippel-von-Frankenstein.
So there was a real Dr. Frankenstein. His name was Dippel von Frankenstein. Did Dippel ever do any strange experiments like Dr. Frankenstein did in Mary Shelley's book?
Yes, of course he did. He was a grave robber.
Walter tells me that Dippel von Frankenstein robbed graves and would take human bodies up to a secret lab where he experimented on them. Just like Victor Frankenstein. Can I see the lab where he worked?
Please follow me, we'll go there.
So this was Dippel's secret lab?
This was the secret lab, and here he did the experiment with a liquid of everlasting life.
A liquid of everlasting life. That sounds just like Mary Shelley's Frankenstein story.
This liquid he found, it was high, it exploded and threw him out of the wall, through the roof, and he fell into the forest.
There's a curse on our village. The curse of time.
The town minister told people that Dippel had created a monster and that the monster escaped into the forest in the explosion. Today, people still tell stories about Frankenstein's monster.
The forest today is the place of the monster that's still roaming around in the forest around Frankenstein Castle during the nights.
Did the real Dr. Frankenstein create a monster that's roaming in the forest today? There's one way I can find out.
Movies are full of scary monsters. Just ask 12-year-old Claire Bolton of Derbyshire, England. She sent me an email about some movies that freaked her out. Take a look. Ah, for crying out loud. Take a look on the Mystery Illustrator. Dear Doubting Dave, when I watch a scary movie, whatever the movie is about, it always freaks me out.
Oh my goodness.
I tell myself it's not real, but I still get scared. Why?
I'm trying to watch the film.
Well, Claire, movie makers use a whole bunch of tricks to make things look scary. Like when they show you something creepy, but the person in the movie doesn't see it. Then, they add some eerie music to make you feel like something horrible is about to happen. And they make the lighting dark and scary. They might even throw in a loud noise to startle you. And now you're watching so closely, you feel like you're the one who's in danger. Then, when you're so scared you can't take it anymore,
I have some foot odor cream here for a Doubting Dave. You're Doubting Dave?
It's for a friend.
Okay.
But don't ever relax, because that's when they get you with the surprise twist. So, Claire, don't think you're the only one who gets freaked out by horror movies. They're made to scare everybody the same way. Huh? Huh?
We'll be right back with more Mystery Hunters. We now return to Mystery Hunters.
Many people have reported seeing shadow people who follow them or appear at special times. I've come to this cemetery to find them. I'm trying to capture proof that shadow people exist. They're supposed to lurk in lonely places, like this cemetery. After what Heidi Hall has said about these things, I'm not sure I want to see one up close. I'm heading into a darker part of the cemetery, so I better turn on my night vision if I want to see anything. Whoa. All these statues look like they could be people. I hear noises and I think that I see stuff. I don't know. It's kind of weird in here. I keep hearing like these crackling sounds and there's somebody behind me. Even my shadow looks scary. I can't really see too clearly. What's that? Oh, it's just a statue. It's spooky, all right, but I think these are all just regular shadows. Well, I haven't caught anything that looks like a shadow person on camera, but Heidi says that she's spoken to tons of people who have seen them. Maybe one of them has proof that they really exist. Cindy Randoso and her son, Matt, also believe that shadow people are real. So when did you first see them?
I was about 5 or 6 years old, and they would appear in my bedroom. I would quickly cover my head up with the blankets, and then I'd peek out, and there would be nobody there. And last fall, I was working in the dining room on my computer. It was about 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. I'm a night owl. All of a sudden, I got real cold, and then something jerked the back of my computer chair, and I almost fell over. And then I saw this dark shadow from the kitchen all the way into the living room in the corner.
Matthew, you're Cindy's son, and you've seen the shadow people too?
Yeah, sometimes I'd be working on my drawings, and I would see the shadows coming out of the corner of my eye.
Do they scare you?
I've gotten older, I've gotten used to them. In fact, would you like to see a shadow person? That's a picture of me with my grandmother. I was 2.5 years old. We were in my great-grandmother's backyard when that picture was taken. What's unique about the picture, though, is there's like arms reaching around that person and trying to pull him back, like they're trying to keep him from coming into our world or trying to reach me.
Could this be a shadow person?
Araya, you've got to get back to the mystery lab right away. I've captured some shadow people and...
Dr. Frankenstein was a real person. He lived here in Castle Frankenstein. People say he created a monster and that it escaped into this forest. Mary Shelley's mad scientist could be based on a real person, Dr. Johann Conrad Dippel von Frankenstein. In fact, there is evidence that Mary Shelley heard the Frankenstein monster story, and may even have visited the castle. If the scientist was a real person, could the monster be real too? In Mary Shelley's book, Dr. Frankenstein thought his creation would be beautiful. Instead, it was ugly and scary. But did the real Dr. Frankenstein create a monster that's still lurking in these woods? I can't see anything.
Have you found anything, Christina?
No, but this place is definitely spooky. I found another scientist from Mary Shelley's time who says he used electricity to create life. His name was Andrew Cross, but his neighbors called him Wizard Cross because of the strange experiments he did in his lab. His lab was here at Fine Court in the UK. What exactly did Andrew Cross do here?
Andrew was experimenting with electricity.
He used poles and wire to collect electricity from lightning.
He had 1/3 of a mile of copper wire strung through the various trees here and went down into that left-hand window there. And you can just imagine the flashes and bangs and lights and things. On one of of his experiments, he got some acid and put it on a volcanic rock.
He zapped a piece of rock and some chemicals with electricity, and he found bugs like these, creatures never before seen by science. This is a picture he drew of what he saw. If Andrew Cross could create these creepy creatures using electricity, then maybe Dr. Frankenstein was able to do the same thing, but with human body parts. Cross and Dr. Frankenstein weren't the only ones conducting strange experiments. I found a place where other scientists were conducting experiments with human bodies.
We'll be right back with more Mystery Hunters. We now return to Mystery Hunters.
Are there shadow people living among us? Many people say they've seen them. Could this photo be proof that they exist? Cindy's photo is pretty convincing, but is it really a picture of a shadow person? Sometimes when a camera doesn't work right, two pictures can be shot on the same frame of film. It's called a double exposure, and it can create what looks like a ghost. So was this really a shadow reaching out to Cindy? Or did the person who took the photo accidentally take two pictures that got turned into one? Without the negative, it's impossible to tell. But even if there is no physical proof that shadow people exist, people who say they see them. Dr. Simmons is an ophthalmologist, an eye doctor. I've been talking to people who see big, scary shadows out of the corner of their eyes. Does this sound strange to you?
No, it sounds perfectly normal. We have two parts of our vision. We have our central vision that lets us see clearly, and then we have what's called our peripheral vision. In fact, it detects motion, and it's not as crisp and clear as the center part of the vision. Let's test your peripheral vision and see how far you can see. So let's have you tell me how many fingers you see.
1.
Excellent.
2. 5.
No, you didn't see so well down in that last little quadrant.
I get it. The things we see out of the corner of our eye are blurry. So people might just be seeing blurry shapes moving near them and think they're shadow people.
Exactly.
Excuse me.
What's up? Araya, you've got to get back to the mystery lab right away. I've captured some shadow people.
Dave? Hello? I'm sorry, I've got to go. Doubting Dave? What the heck? This is crazy.
Welcome to the land of the shadow people.
Very nice. But do you think there could be real shadow people out there?
Well, Araya, shadows have been freaking people out since the time of the caveman. And that's partly because even the biggest, scariest shadows can come from little, friendly things. Shadows might even seem like ghosts or aliens sometimes, but they're actually just the world's oldest optical illusions. In fact, there are even some cool ways you can cast scary, moving shadows at home to freak out your family, if you dare. First, try hanging a shirt on a hanger. Then, hang the hanger on the end of a stick. Turn on a desk lamp and point it at a wall. Now, move the shirt through the light in front of the lamp. If you move it through slowly, the shadow looks like a floating ghost. If you move it through quickly, the shadow looks like something dark and evil streaking through the room. To make it even spookier, try standing outside the room where your victim can't see you. Second trick, get 2 pen lights. Tape some red plastic wrap over the lights. Then, stick them in a leafy plant so they poke out like eyes. Put the plant on a wagon, then put a strong light behind the plant so it casts a shadow on the wall. Now, pull the wagon quietly. The light from the lamp will cast a scary shadow, and the pen lights will look like freaky glowing eyes.
Those are awesome tricks. But do you think that people who believe they saw shadow creatures might actually have seen something like this?
Well, not exactly like this. But even shadows made by branches in the moonlight, or a stray cat caught in the headlights of a passing car, or even just a plastic bag blowing by in the wind, can sometimes take on a life of their own.
All right. Thanks, Doubting Dave.
No problem. Guys, let's go.
So when people are seeing scary shadows, it could just be their peripheral vision and their imaginations playing tricks on them. But whether the shadow people are real or just an illusion, being alone in a dark place is always gonna freak me out a little.
Could the Frankenstein story be true? Could scientists have created life using electricity? Was there ever a real monster?
So it's pretty scary laying on that table, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Let me help you up.
Karen Howell works here at the Old Operating Theater Museum. This is what operating rooms were like when Mary Shelley wrote her book. Doctors performed surgeries and experiments right on this table. They learned by practicing on dead bodies. How did the doctors get the corpses?
They had their own people who would steal for them, but sometimes you would resort to the last straw, really, of digging a grave and removing a body.
Just like in the Frankenstein book. But did anybody try to bring a monster to life or do any experiments that were similar to Dr. Frankenstein?
There is evidence of surgeons and doctors using electric shocks to charge material for experimentation, but nobody ever created life with electricity.
No one? But what about Andrew Cross? Did Cross create these creatures when he shocked that rock with electricity?
Unfortunately, no.
It turns out that Andrew's creatures were just tiny insects called mites.
Mites were either already in the rock, or alternatively, they were in the atmosphere and landed on the rock at some point during the experiments.
Did Cross think that he had created life?
He did not know where the mites came from, and so he never claimed to make life, but other people said that he did.
The famous Dr. Frankenstein did exist, and lots of doctors were doing strange experiments with electricity in Mary Shelley's time. But was Frankenstein's monster really brought to life? Yes, it was, by Mary Shelley's imagination, and her monster is kept alive in the movies we see today.
I never knew there was such a long history of crazy scientists trying to bring dead things to life with electricity.
Well, there is, Araya. But those scientists weren't totally crazy. All muscles are powered by electrical impulses from the brain. So in theory, you could make a severed arm or leg twitch by zapping it with electricity. Unfortunately, I don't think anything can save my old radio. Thanks for watching.
Dave's right, Christina. I found the severed finger in his lab. I hooked it up to a battery. Check it out.
Ugh, gross!
Remember, things aren't always what they seem.